I was a guest on David's podcast and I enjoyed every bit of the conversation. We talked about my journey in life and he was great with the questions and direction of flow of our chat. I find David's podcast an interesting one as we all can learn about other people's journeys, the challenges they faced and how they overcame them.
Some say he's a technical whiz. Some say he was born in Cornwall. While some say he's on a journey. It's The Journey. And here's your host, David Hackett.
I have run another journey, and today's journey involves a purpose and essence coach. She helps boomers in finding a new purpose in life that fulfills them with energy, freedom, joy, and ease after the retirement. And she's loving to come on and do an episode about the purpose and first courage for retirement. So today's journey involves Sharon. Hello, Sharon.
David. Yeah, I'm north of Seattle and the sun is shining and yesterday was a perfect day. Today's going to be a little bit on the warm side, but yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, so welcome to the journey. Everyone has a purpose in life. Everyone has a reason for being here. And now my joke is about when your journey begins, you're born, but that's the earliest memory possible. But what was your earliest memory that started your journey?
Well, I've kind of been remembering lately that I had a dream, reoccurring dream 2 or 3 times that I was riding in a mom's car. She was driving and the 2 older kids were there too. And somehow in the story of the dream, she was going to offer one of us as a sacrifice. Where in the world did that come from? But I said, no, mommy, I don't want to be the one. I want to see what life's about. And even as a teenager, I started wondering what was my potential. And actually, that's kind of the mystery of life is what are we here to be, do, and have? And so, this mystery, what am I going to be about? And as I went through my career, I often helped people with their resumes because, sometimes it's hard to be objective about our who we are. And so as an outside person, I could add some insight to embellish their resume in an honest way, of course. But as I approached retirement I retired in April of 2016. But, the last 5 years, I kind of like, what? Well, I had run a convention in Seattle for about 1,800 people as a volunteer. And my director had given me this nugget of truth one day and said, well, Sharon, when you get through running a convention, you need something else to go to. What's next before the convention actually happens? And I didn't ask him about it, but I got the feeling he had lived that, that he had gone into, women after they have a baby, they have postpartum depression. And I got the feeling he might have had a taste of that. So in facing retirement, I remembered his counsel, because I'd be changing, working every day and after a big event, have something to go to before your big event ends. So while I did plan a retirement trip, that was kind of fun to plan ahead. So I had something to reward myself with. But I did in January when I was just 3-4 months away from retiring, I got this email that said that Boeing, where I was working at the time, was partnering with the community college in encouraging some of the Boeing employees to take advantage of this coaching school. And so I tried my best to get Boeing to pay for it, even though I was headed out the door. And they said, Well, no, Sharon. In all honesty, we're not going to be able to benefit from you taking this course, even though it's a pretty natural progression of what I was doing. Well, I had gotten a master's degree in behavioral science, so coaching was a pretty good fit for me. And so the week before leaving Boeing, I started coaching school. And the first thing they taught us, David, was to write our essence statement. Well, I've now called it my inner spark statement, but it was a way of saying, recognizing what's inside of us, what that destiny and personality and hot buttons, put all that into a mixing bowl and wrap it up in a nature story. And so mine goes like this. I am precious jewel of wisdom. I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I am tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires. So that goes along very nicely with my behavioral science, but the precious jewel of wisdom, that came from a moment when I was in Dallas, Texas, at an art fair, and this geometry teacher turned jeweler had a booth in the backside of where the Cowboys play football. And it was kind of getting late on a Sunday afternoon. And I went into his tent and saw all this unique jewelry. Wow, I love unique stuff. I love being unique. And so I had put on his rings, and something moved in my gut. What was that? What's going on? I took them off and put them back on, and it moved again. I put them down and left the tent and was bewildered. But that later, I'd say maybe a couple of years later, I was reading some books where they say, well, describe yourself as being something else. So I decided to use those rings. They're called stackables. So there was like 3 or 4 to a ensemble, I guess you'd call it. And I would talk about the quality that I presented to my work team, the sparkle, the value, the shine, the color, and reliable and quality. Anyway, so when it came to writing my essence statement, I used that same aha moment of that amazing, touch of something, and decided to wrap my essence statement in this metaphor of being a valuable jewel. So now it's my delight to help people find discover their inner spark too, because, well, I guess about 3-4 months after I had discovered my essence, I had made a wall hanging, and I had taken care of my Social Security papers and my health care papers and all that, and I started bouncing off the wall. How do I know if my days are productive? There's no boss to please. I don't want to waste time. So I came over, I know, one day 3 different times, and read my essence statement that I had on my wall here behind me. And I gradually realized, when I lived from my essence, my values, what was important to me, every day felt right. What a nice feeling. You're not looking out there to please somebody. You're pleasing yourself. And that fulfillment and contentment, satisfaction was just priceless. At the end of the weekend that we wrote our essence statement, our classmates stood in a circle and read our statement to each other. Wow. When it got to me, my turn, I felt like nobody had ever asked me to describe my soul before. That's what it felt like. And I wasn't the only one. There was others that were kind of choked up as they shared the 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 like what's inside of them. The essence of I being reduced to this one statement is just and to share it in front of people was pretty awesome. So now I am enjoying helping others do that same thing, because life is so much different when we live it from our purpose and destiny and what's inside of us instead of what's outside of us.
Yeah, it's just amazing to hear that because, you know, everyone's destiny is different. It's like the purpose of a journey. You know, when I started interviewing people, it started with just a simple interview, and I just like to talk to people. But I like the way that everyone has different journeys, and it's not always the straightforward journey because obviously you can't always go on a straight and narrow journey. You have to take diversions. So yours is pretty straightforward, but you've also deviated onto those diversions because of how you've seen your life change.
Yeah, I didn't realize about 6 months later into that program, I came back from lunch and I slapped the table and stomped my foot and said, "It's not okay to be invisible." Where did that come from? I shocked myself. And little by little, I've come to realize that I had actually made what felt like a vow back when I was 10, 12, 14 years old. Um, my there was a lot of abuse in our home, and I said 100 times at least, "Thank heavens he keeps his hands off me." And I was diligent about being real obedient and get good grades and don't vote, um, because that felt safe. And yeah, in my career, I I pretty much felt invisible that whole time. Now I did do Dale Carnegie course and a Toastmasters course, and so I was kind of practicing being in front of people to some extent. But it's just been in the last couple months that I realized maybe I'm still invisible to a lot of people, and they're having a hard time finding me. But I realize not everybody knows they need an essence statement or an inner spark statement. But this is the time, David, that is so critical that we know who we are. What do we bring to the world? In fact, I said on a podcast on Monday with a lady in Germany that I feel now like I'm a spark of heaven on earth. I'm 75 and I brag about it. Never been in the hospital, never had diabetes, never had cancer, all those things that never had COVID, never. I'm looking pretty good. And I think that comes from the peace and and learning to love myself more. That's been a journey in itself. And life is so much better when we can hug ourselves and feel the value of that gold that God put inside of us.
Yeah, it's because I know from previous interviews, and I know people personally, you know, people often seek self-validation in themselves because obviously the self-validation is obviously due to past trauma, so they have to self-validate themselves to make them say, I am worthy to be here, I am worthy to do this.
Yeah,
Now I always tell people, and I've always believed this, I always say self-validation is good, but you are you. You are valued. You don't need to ask for validation because you already validated yourself. You're here. But I believe in those people because of the validation they require.
yes, yes. I know that this is kind of jumping maybe to what I'm going to be doing later, but it starts in just a couple of weeks. On the week of June 12 to 18, there's going to be a Loneliness Awareness Week. And I read last month the book Together, written by our Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy. And I was challenged by his book to be an instrument to connect people and to reduce loneliness. I do a weekly 2-3 minute video on Instagram as the Queen of Courage. And I've been sharing tidbits from the Together book. And it stirred me significantly enough to step up to the plate and start a loneliness to resilience community with a membership. So it's a private group, not a public group, and to talk about loneliness. And the amazing thing is I solved the loneliness issue way back in my early 20s. And so I thought, well, since I haven't struggled with loneliness, what do I have to share? I found a nugget of truth for me that solved it. But in reflecting on how I got to that point of when I chasing loneliness away, I realized there are some nuggets that I can share with people, and I love bringing out the best in people anyway. And I'm hoping to make a huge impact with dealing with the loneliness. And then I'm planning to start another membership group on mental strength. That was another place where I had a big aha revelation. And then to either a third membership, either around purpose, if the demand is there, or to go ahead and lead them into my Discover Your Inner Spark, rekindling your joy in 90 days.
Yeah, that is amazing. So, talking of now, and we spoke about what you are doing kind of in the future, but obviously that is in a bit. But how do you see yourself now you've got to where you are now? Do you feel accomplished? Do you feel that you've implanted yourself that you are safe to say when you're not here, your legacy will live on?
Yeah, so let me go ahead and tell you that story about the mental strength moment. I was this guy was on YouTube, I guess. Maybe it was Facebook. I don't remember. It was back 5 or 6 years ago. But Andy Shaw was doing this webinar out of the UK, and it was a weekly 1-hour thing. And I had a conflict with day 2 to 5, but I listened that first day and then just hopped in quick enough to get his notes and go to my other appointment. And that first day he said, when you're facing a difficult meeting or a challenge to meet somebody that you're not sure how it's going to go, he said, recall to mind first a warm memory. Hold that memory for 15 seconds and then go into your meeting or face your difficult situation, and it'll go much better for you. So my warm memory that day was being back in 3rd grade, and it was a Christmas program, and I had been delegated to be a reader, one of 3 readers. And I thought, well, how do you be a good reader? I wonder how you be a good reader. Okay, there's some, when the guy is doing the news, he's in front of people, and what makes him successful? And the minister, he's in front of people, and what makes him successful? And I picked up that you had to speak up loud enough so people could hear you, slow enough so they could understand you, and pause occasionally and look at your audience. So that's what I did in this Christmas program. And the delight to me was afterwards, there's 2 or 3 people that complimented me as I was their favorite reader. And so after this webinar, I thought, well, why just have one more memory? Let's see how many I could come up with. And that was about 10 days later. And my list of, I don't know, 10 or 12 things, half of the list was in front of people. What? Was I supposed to be in front of people? That Toastmasters event, the last one to get a competent Toastmaster, you had to speak for 10 minutes on whatever topic you wanted to. And there was a magic moment in that speech where I touched somebody else's soul. I could see the delight, in them. And I didn't have one from Dale Carnegie per se, but I started, maybe I was supposed to be in front of people. And I had actually had a profile result come in the mail 4 or 5 days before this. And it said one of my strengths was an influencer. No, I think you got that wrong, not me. But I started, after this aha moment, I thought maybe I need to explore that. Take baby steps as if maybe that was true. See what happens. And it was just a couple of weeks later that I got a call from New York, and they said, we would like to do an interview with you. And that led into doing my own podcast. And now I'm the Queen of Courage. So I'm in front of people somewhat regularly. The lady on Monday was in Germany. What a delight. I have a nephew that lives there. So cool.
And it's just amazing when you do read, and I'm not talking about numbers now, so people probably think what we're talking about, but when you see the statistics of where your listenership is, it just shows how far you can reach across the globe.
Yes, I would like to be an international speaker. In fact, this last couple of months, I've been exploring being an enrichment speaker on cruise ships. The only hang-up is that they want 3 references of people who have seen me on stage in front of audiences speaking, and I haven't been able to rally up those references as yet. So maybe we'll have to approach that from a different angle.
Yeah. So going into the future, and we touched upon the events that you got coming up, but how do you see your future progressing as, because I'm not being disrespectful here. Most people would say, isn't it time to slow up? Isn't it time to be time for yourself? But obviously you are having time to yourself. But where do you see your future lay?
I do anticipate connecting with some pretty significant people, and as I grow and learn and expand. Actually, I love the word possibility, exploring, the being curious and courageous. All those wrapped up into one bundle is kind of how I see future. In fact, I did write a book called Fresh Courage in Retirement, Finding Purpose, Essence, and Fulfillment. So that will hopefully open some doors for me. But since my niche is primarily the baby boomers, they're not on social media all that much. Now, maybe that will change as we go forward, but I figure they're out there on the golf courses and out there on cruise ships and out there traveling. So I need to line up some travel adventure dates to be a speaker and get them engaged. There's the sad statistic to me, David, that the myth at Boeing before I left, somebody told me, well, they say when you retire, you're dead in 3 years. That hurt. Somebody's got to do something about that. And yet, in the book, What Retirees Want, he says that there's around 47 or 48 hours a week retirees spend in front of TV. And that is wasted potential in my mind. And I want to engage and remind boomers that they have an education, they've got all this experience, they've got values that matter and can make a difference in somebody else's life. I, for years, have kind of imagined if the best anybody could do is sit in a chair for 24 hours a day, they're no less loved or more loved than us that have the capability of walking around and being engaged in life. Sitting in a chair, you can read and write and listen. I think so much of today's world is hurting because we've forgotten how to listen to each other, be curious and exploring each other's experiences and lessons learned. And I want to engage, inspire, and motivate boomers to find a place to fit in, to matter, and to make a difference. Volunteering makes such a difference. And one of my podcast guests was a Washington AARP president for 6 years and did a marvelous, had 9 points of what you get from volunteering. Very organized thoughts and inspiring too. So then there was the Habitat for Humanity guest that I had, and he talked about you can bring your RV to our habitat deal. You sleep in your own bed at night, and you're helping build a house. You know, all I think they said it runs usually about 6 weeks to build a house. So there's lots of possibilities. And in fact, if your listeners write to me, I can give you a list of all kinds of books and websites and movies that can motivate you into some new possibilities in retirement or when it's your time to retire.
Yeah, and last of all, because we touched upon how to contact you, how is the best way for people to contact you to get further information?
Well, I'm very active on Facebook on my Sharon Rolph page. I'm usually posting something of wisdom and thought-provoking daily. I think I missed yesterday actually, but there's a lot of nuggets of to think about on Sharon Rolph Facebook. But I also have a website, SharonRolph.com. ROLPH is my last name. And I have a site that I was involved in designing that's called effortlessvitality.now.site. And I come more from the heart on that site because one, I made it, and two, it's I love color and beauty, and that site has a lot of color and beauty as I try to touch people's hearts. That's the other thing, David, that people don't often realize. When you've been working all these 40, 50, 60 years in a job to make someone else happy, you know, your boss, making your boss happy, you're almost entirely working from your brain, from your mind. But in retirement, you get to live and express yourself from your heart. And what a difference that makes, because when you live and work from your heart, that's where that effortless vitality, that flow happens. And I want everybody to be living in the flow for where they are in life and what they're here to do.
Mm-hmm. And one last ultimate question and statement I like to hear from guests is, what inspiration would you want to share with people for their journey?
Well, one of the most touching poems, I guess you could say, that I saw at work about 30 years ago, I guess. And I believe it's, excuse me, I believe it's from T.S. Eliot. If, excuse me. If one has a talent and does not use it, one has failed. If one has a talent and partially uses it, one has partially failed. If one has a talent and finds out how to live, how to embrace it in its entirety, one has gloriously succeeded and found a satisfaction few people ever know. And that's such a rich nugget that I can feel it in my bones. They found a rich satisfaction that few people ever know, splendor for life.
That is amazing. And Sharon, thank you for sharing your journey with us today.
Thank you for having me, David. It's an honor.
That was The Journey, hosted by Wise Words Imaging, hosted by David Hackett. Be sure to like, subscribe and listen to another journey coming soon.